we have another important open source model out, and I think it's really good time for us to calibrate on where we are in this open source versus proprietary model competition, which is very exciting. So the model we're going to talk about primarily today is GLM 5.2. GLM models have been particularly on the bleeding edge of open source models. The MIT license, I think they're about to release the weight soon. Some of the benchmarks they have released were really quite impressive. If you're going to look at the numbers, they're basically kind of sandwiched between Opus 4.8 and GPT 5.5. We're not going to go through all of the benchmarks that they released, but it does feel like for quite a lot of them, they're really making a claim that they're very close to the frontier. And I've even seen some benchmarks or some kind of conversations is like, well, maybe it's as good as Fable, or maybe it's better than Fable. And this is not quite what our leaderboard is showing. So we released the Agent Arena leaderboard, and what we see there is that it's number 10, which is, by the way, really, really strong. It's a 750 billion parameter model. It isn't multimodal, by the way. It doesn't have vision, but nevertheless, that's really, really impressive. MIT licensed, amazing. But it's still some ways down, especially from Fable, some ways down from Opus 4.8, 5.5 XHigh. And what I want to dig through with you guys today is always we want to see how do these models perform in the real world. And we're going to look at the Agent Arena and some of the generations that I managed to get from there. Now, I'll have a little treat for you, is that we'll have some Fable generations. And don't worry, it's not because I have access to Fable, I don't, unfortunately. But I did have some saved from the previous video that I did, and I thought it would be fun to compare side by side. Now, obvious disclaimer, this is not a fair comparison, right? One is a super expensive proprietary latest model, another is open source, smaller model. There's probably, who knows, maybe 10x difference in size and so on. But nevertheless, I think it's useful for us to calibrate where we are. And I'm also going to compare to GPT 5.5 XHigh, given that a lot of the time they kind of claim to be above it or kind of on par with it. So let's see what we've got. The way the agent mode works is that we put a prompt, it kind of does all the tool calls or whatever it needs to do. Then I can also, sometimes I do follow-up prompts to kind of maybe fix some issues or something like that. What we are looking at first are some of these kind of 3.js generations. Not the most important thing in the world, like we don't particularly care about it specifically, but what I care about is can I coordinate different complex instructions. You can see here the prompt is super long. There are a lot of difficult requirements. Does it have this kind of visual taste? Is it lazy? Is it maybe creating really dynamic image? So these are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. To my eye, this is GLM 5.2. You can see here on top, this is really, really nice output. It's not quite as dynamic. I've seen some of those that being more dynamic, and maybe some details could be a little bit stronger. But, well, actually saying this, I was kind of saying, oh, how could it be as good as Fable? Maybe Fable kind of screwed up here a little bit, where it was the roof was upside down, and the whole generation is maybe not that impressive. But I think it did put the kind of the hill and the surrounding city, I think, is stronger. So, maybe on that one, not so far apart after all. Well, actually, and this is the GPT 5.5 high. I think that's kind of the worst out of these three in terms of outputs. But, we don't just judge based on one prompt here, so we want to see more outputs. This is the one which I think is really interesting prompt. So it's kind of gets you can't really tell from this because it's not a very good one. But what we want is a kind of this octopus, which, oh yeah, you can kind of see it emerging. So it's a kind of octopus, it should behave naturally, that's what I'm kind of interested in. Oh, it's finally moving. Oh wow, okay, exciting time. So you can kind of see it's not like a terrible generation. I think if it coordinated elements a bit better, it would be better than that. But if we look at what, oh yeah, that was another 5.2, it's kind of similar level generation. But if you look at the Fable one, now there's no comparison here. The quality, the kind of the dynamism, the resolution here is like, this is, yeah, completely next level. If we look at 5.5 XHigh, it's definitely worse than Fable. And I think, yeah, it kind of doesn't quite look like an octopus. But, you know, at least you can see it. It is kind of moving and so on. So it's kind of, the fact that GLM didn't quite generate any that we could see is not great. But yeah, Fable here was completely next level generation. In here, the generation here is a whale that we want to see. It kind of its natural behavior. I must say this kind of patterns and so on doesn't look like anything close really. This metallic, yeah, it's kind of crazy. So the whole generation is not that great. If we look at Fable, this is like completely insane, completely next level in terms of the generation. So yeah, I would say the fidelity, the detail here, the coloring, this is like completely insane. If we're gonna look at the GPT 5.5, let's see if it's gonna load. Well, maybe not. Sometimes take a little while. But let's not let this stop us, and let's have a look at a few more generations. So this one again is a very complicated prompt, so we're definitely giving it quite difficult tasks. So in here, this is Westminster in London. We want to see this kind of bridge, cars, you know, there's also like extra features and so on. So it is quite complicated, but hopefully you can see the output is not great, right? We've got like different doubling up the bridge. I think it's kind of got a bit confused and I think split it in two. There's no bridge like in the middle here. The wheel is not quite like in the right place and so on. So it's kind of, it did certain things okay, but it's certainly that kind of complexity and coordination is not really great. And this kind of extra thing is not looking like anything real either. If you look at Fable, this is like insanely good, right? We've got the Palace of Westminster, the whole scene kind of looks really built together. The water, like the best that I've seen, the ships and so on. So this is, yeah, this is exceptional generation. If I'm gonna find, yeah, this one, somewhere in between, I would say, right? So this is definitely worse than Fable. So this is GPT 5.5 XHigh, but it is much better than GLM. In here we've got no like big mistakes, although I just saw the bus go like this. Actually, I guess not quite here, but anyway, that is sort of not quite right. But we have a lot more elements here that mean that we can actually see it a lot nicer. So yeah, it's not definitely a perfect generation, but better than GLM. So I think like what does this tell us? Like I don't want to be like totally unfair to GLM. Like again, what I said before still applies. It is a much smaller, much cheaper model. But what I think we shouldn't get carried away with is that it's like the level of Fable. Like that claim, which I haven't seen made that many times, but certainly not anywhere near that particularly. This is a prompt for a game, kind of flying around Paris. And this is actually not bad. Like quite often for these sorts of tests, like you can barely control the thing and just kind of dies. Oh no, that was just me being bad. So yeah, this is actually pretty good. Like that is not bad. I mean, kind of barely looks like Paris, but still. And I would say like one area where I didn't get that good responses, at least in my test, but then I saw some amazing ones online, so I don't really know. Maybe I wasn't doing something right, but for me, games with Fable were not like that strong of its suit. But so yeah, kind of the colors are a bit more washed out, and so on. But the controls here, I would say, are quite a bit better than GLM. But GLM I think did really well, and the GPT 5.5 high. Oh no, the controls are really quite bad. So yeah, you know what? On this one, I'll give it to GLM. I think it actually did really well. So that is a nice win. So quite often what we see in these kinds of tests is that not that you can never get really excellent generations from these kind of second-tier models, but quite often the reliability is not completely there. And I would say like the reliability for GLM has not been that bad actually, but still, like if you look at some of the benchmarks, I don't exactly know how they run them, but you can definitely see how if you were to maybe pick like the best run, or like you construct it in such a way that you benefit from this kind of top level performance rather than the average performance, then you could do better on these kinds of benchmarks. This is you were seeing some of the humpback whale generations, and here I would actually say that the GPT 5.5 XHigh did the best. Not perfect, like it still feels kind of very clunky. But I would say it's not too bad here. The Fable one, like maybe that's kind of not its best generation. You see, you can't see the waterline, so it's not ideal. So the waterline here is better. But for GLM, it is quite a basic generation. So yeah, I would say 5.5 here is definitely winning. So in terms of the 3D generations, I would say that it's kind of holding its own. Like it's surprisingly good, even a couple of times. Maybe we're gonna give between those three, even give the win to it. I would say still nowhere near Fable in terms of the visual fidelity, the complexity that it can hold. GPT 5.5 XHigh, I would also say, is better. But look, like this is a small model, like relatively small. I mean, 750 odd billion parameters isn't that small. You can't really run it on your laptop. But still, like it is kind of impressive. But I wouldn't claim that it's a really matching that kind of level. So I want to change tact a little bit now. And what we want to do is, because it's the agent arena and we don't want to just do these kind of 3D generations, we want to have a look at these kinds of extra agentic things that it can do. And the simple thing that it can do is to do some research. So in this case, we're given a prompt such as, I would like you to research the most interesting, impressive data set, and I want to learn something about the world. I want you to visualize and create a 3D interactive experience so I can kind of see what it looks like. And it kind of did go through all of this. So let's see what are the kinds of things that it came up with. So remember, we want this kind of original data set, and we want something engaging. So in this case, I actually quite like this. So it created kind of exoplanets and orbiting the sun, so it's kind of created this kind of 3D visualization. I'm not sure I completely like understand this data set, but I do kind of like the way it displayed it. But yeah, am I like completely, oh, it's like when they were being discovered. Okay, I see. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like I kind of, it's when I saw it, at least it appeals to me. Like I think I like that it's just kind of, oh, he is the visualization. while sometimes you kind of get some which are kind of, there's too many words and things like that. Here the same prompt again for GLM 5.2, another run, and here it kind of again went with the same kind of idea about the real exoplanets, and it's showing you this kind of discovery. And the visualization is not that impressive. Like if I was to show this to a child, like I don't think they would find it very impressive. But I think it does kind of show you kind of some feel for, you know, what the data is like. So I think it's like did okay job here. And same prompt again, same model, and this is kind of showing the generations here for yeah. So it's, I guess, not very interesting data set. I would say it's kind of not really data set. I guess we kind of know this as an idea. If I was to show Fable 5, just again for calibration, this was one of the best generations I remember in terms of this is one shot, and you just pulled this data set about the different earthquakes, and it's just kind of mapped them beautifully onto the globe. So that kind of thing is just like instantly you're like completely engaged by how beautiful this is, and there's some extra features and so on. So I thought Fable was just like completely next level at these kinds of tasks. And if we're gonna show 5.5 XHigh, like I think it's definitely kind of in between the two again, I would say, where it's kind of showing, I think, data in a quite nice visual way. But you see how much actually like heavy UI there is. Like I don't really like that. And this was done far more tasteful with Fable here. But you know, it's not like terrible either. I think it's like instantly a step down, but not quite not a terrible generation either. So I think this kind of does show you some kind of interesting dimension, how you can do things in what direction. To change tact again is I want to see whether you can pull together the kind of do a task that is for more knowledge work. And here what we're asking is to do research on AI models and help a business understand what kind of models they should be using. Right, so that's it's done some research and it pulled together this deliverable. And there are a few things that I'm looking for is one, has it actually done good research? Then has it pulled together a presentation in a compelling way that we can actually get the point across? And then there's also this kind of, does it actually look nice? So on the kind of look nice part, I think that's not that nice. Like things are not particularly aligned. Like this formatting is not that great. In terms of the information, I mean, it will be hard for us to like go through it. But it kind of talks about cost reduction, typical ratio of total LLMOps cost to raw API spend. I mean, it's kind of not sure about this. Yeah, it's kind of okay points, or yeah, this kind of sloppy UI generation is not great. In terms of top tier models, it is kind of pulling up like slightly random models, like 4.8 is not included, 5.5, I guess that's all fine. Grok 4.3, I mean, I guess maybe you wouldn't put here. It's kind of random listing of them as well. 5.5 Pro, I don't think that's like, you would kind of include that naturally here. Then yeah, it's kind of including few things, but it feels to me like a little bit superficial and kind of plugged together. And it's definitely not up to date, right? GPT image 1.5, we had 2 out for like a few, is it a month or 2 already? So yeah, it's definitely not like, yeah, the list of video models, yeah, to me kind of feels like not a good design, not like a compelling story, and also information is kind of bad. So not not like super impressed with this, I must say. We're not going to go through it in so much detail, but just to tell you, like, this is in terms of like the UI at least, another generation, but it's also, the quality is not like super good. But at least it did start to include some benchmarks here, which is like, okay, you're including GPQA now, Swift bench verified. Like, these are not the kind of benchmarks you want to include now, to be honest. And like Llama 4, again, to include that in open weight models, I think that's like a little bit outdated. It did actually include GLM 5.2. That's a nice touch. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, not a great, I wouldn't put that in front of like any client to show them. If you're going to look at Fable, I was also not like super impressed with the depth of it. We're not going to go through so much detail, but I would say, again, didn't include like the absolutely latest models, but you can kind of understand that it's like laying out the story a little bit better, putting more detail. So it's definitely, like, if we were to go for a slide by line, and I don't want to really do that now, but I can tell you, like, that's a higher quality generation. Although I would still say even Fable has some more work to do. This is not something, like, if you're a consultant, you wouldn't really just send this to the client and say, here you go, right? So I think there's definitely some more opportunities for improvement there. In terms of what GPT 5.5 XHigh did for the same prompt, I think it kind of, I wish it did kind of more actual like research here. So like instantly, it's not really giving me any data. It's just kind of talking about it at a high level, kind of what are the elements that it needs to consider. It's like, I guess that is a thing that you can do. But yeah, you kind of wish that it was a bit more in depth. And kind of talking about RAG, governance, that's like slightly random sort of set of things. Yeah, I would say this kind of, the judgment that it shows here is not particularly impressive. And let me just see if there's anything like particularly more interesting here. But no, I think that's kind of, we asked it twice and it sort of did like, okay, so at least included the pricing. Oh, and by the way, included Fable 4.8. So, okay, so at least it actually included some of the latest ones, although Fable's not available as we know, at least at the time of recording. Who knows, maybe you're going to be lucky by the time you're listening to it. So, I would kind of say that it's one of those where where I wouldn't particularly like any model doing this, and the quality of kind of this kind of white collar work, I would still say it's not particularly impressive. To do another type of prompt again is that to kind of come back to this idea of visualizing data again, which is, by the way, like really important part of white collar work as well. We had this generation from GLM 5.2 to kind of educate you and tell you the story. And do you see what I mean about this kind of having a lot of words and so on? I don't find this like particularly compelling. And some of the charts as well like feel very simple, kind of brittle to me. In here, I wanted to show you, I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of all overlapping and so on, but at least I think it exhibited some interesting thinking in terms of like, how do you display this kind of data and so on. So it's like a little bit sloppy, but it's kind of, I guess you could imagine with a few iterations, you can show it to a kid and kind of show that. So I kind of like the idea, maybe not completely the execution there. For Fable, and remember this is kind of go out and research, and it did this generation about the quality of about the kind of the asteroid impacts, and the quality that it showed here is like completely insane. Like this is the if you kind of compare to this, I know it's different data set, but just the vibes right here, kind of slightly silly SVG things that don't make sense together. And this is like a whole one short generation, which to me is like perfect way to visualize the data. And yeah, I think that was another one, which is kind of, yeah, that was the earthquake one, which is like just so beautifully done. That was really nice. And then a similar one for the same prompt, but for GPT, you can see kind of the drop off there. So it's yeah, it's a kind of, it's kind of created a website. Like it's very heavy visually. It's not like that compelling and interesting. So yeah, you can kind of see, yeah, compared to Fable, I think on these kinds of prompts, it's really hard to compete with that. One thing I want to show you as well is a kind of going through the kind of knowledge work kind of tasks is a presentation that an industry analyst might be asked to do about the AI investment and capital expenditure. So it's a kind of prompt that go away research, pull together a presentation, and show me what the data looks like. So we're looking for some kind of judgment in here for research quality and things like that. So this is GLM 5.2, and I would say it's okay just to include, I guess, 4, and I guess it is showing 4 hyperscalers. It's like okay, but there's definitely a lot more CapEx going on than that. And I guess it is including kind of global, so maybe it's like not terrible. Yeah, and it's kind of showing that split. Again, not like a bad approach, but I would say like a little bit superficial. One thing we don't have here is kind of projections, which I did ask for, although it kind of shows 2024 6 guidance, but pick 24 actual. It's kind of a little bit weird. Like why would you do that kind of comparison? Oh yeah, it did actually include this kind of global projection, so I guess that's maybe like fair enough. So it's like it's not like a bad presentation. And I guess, it actually did include the different analysts, but it feels like a little bit superficial. But honestly, better than the one that we previously looked at. So I would say not too bad in here. We can see the sources. So like as a first pass, like pretty reasonable. If we just gonna quickly look at another version of it, just want to see if it included any kind of extra research. So yes, like they're pretty similar, I would say. I kind of provide in different lenses. Yes, like I would say that's not, yeah, the first one I would say it was better, but not like amazing. Let me just show you the PDF. Yeah. If we're gonna look at Fable, it did actually just include Oracle. I thought for some reason that it include more. It did include projections, which I did ask for, so it's nice that it included that. Then it did 25 versus 26, which I think is a better choice. It also kind of actually the flow looks quite similar, so that's interesting. It kind of showed that kind of projection supplied. Oh yeah, the NVIDIA revenue it showed, and a few other elements. So, I think it's like a bit better in terms of some slight decisions, but actually not like super advanced versus the other one. If we're gonna look at the GPT, am I looking at the right thing? Oh yeah, presentation. Yeah, some of the conversions to PDF, I think we can let it slide a little bit. Because I think I've asked it to convert it to PDF, so I think some of it could look a little bit off. Oh yeah, I think it was picking up charts as well from Excel. But yeah, the visuals look kind of bad. It's just kind of copy-pasted from Excel, which is not a good way to do it. Then if we're going to look at content, yeah, it included 4 in here. I would say it is kind of more sparse in terms of what it has included, kind of key takeaways. Yeah, it's kind of hard to engage with it because of the visuals are so bad. Yeah, I think not really impressed with it. It did kind of, oh yeah, that's interesting. It kind of included that the jump for the total CapEx spend, which is quite good to see. Projections, yeah, so it kind of had similar thing, but I must say for all 3 of them, I'm not like super impressed with the quality. I think there is some way to go, but GLM actually did reasonably well against those 3. I think this is quite good. And maybe just to close, let's just take a look at another set of visualizations here. And again, this is kind of going off and research and find something interesting. And in this case, like, yeah, it's like, I guess it did something, and I think it's like a reasonable thing to do in terms of kind of the way it's displaying the information here. But it's like, it's a lot of reading, and I think it's, yeah, that's not quite what I was after when it was showing this. And I think there's a lot of like empty space and things like that. So it's like almost created a website which you kind of have to go and read and so on. Then Fable here, what it did, this kind of pretty amazing visualization of how different nations kind of escaping poverty. And yeah, it was, I think someone mentioned in the comments for the previous video, Hans Rosling did those from Gapminder, which I really loved. So that's definitely a Fable. It was inspired by him. Yeah, but you see what I mean in terms of like the quality of these kinds of generations. Like, I think this is just day and night in terms of like go out, research, present data. Like, this is so much more compelling. And then if you're going to look at the GPT generations, again, I would say it's kind of in between. Like, I think the UI is very heavy. It's not completely like compelling and grabbing the way the Fable ones are. But I think it's more visually focused. I think it's like information is denser, you know, I do like that. So I would say in conclusion, right, if we were to go back to some of these numbers and like some of these numbers, like which ones do you think kind of tell the more complete story? Like, in my view, I think there are like a few areas where maybe all models like didn't do all that well, such as, for example, when we looked at the kind of knowledge work in terms of research and so on. So I would say in that case, like GLM actually did pretty well. Like, you can totally use GLM versus even some of the best models. Fable, if it ever comes back, like you could use probably GLM for that. You still, but the key point there is that you still need to put in quite a lot of work, whichever model you're using. But when we looked at some of the 3D generations or kind of these storytelling generations, you can see how much more room there is between the GLM generations, some GPT 5.5 generations, and especially the Fable ones. So there's still a really substantial gap between those. So when I look at some of the benchmarks here and like how close they come, and you can look at it and be like, well, it's only like a few points. Like, I know they don't have Fable here, but it's still like you look at some of them and it's like, oh, that's so close. And it's like, is that like totally real? I would say not quite. I think I do quite like our score here. I think it places it well. I think it is probably better than Sonnet, like at least in some cases. It is like not as good as 5.5, especially like the XHigh on many cases. But look, it's an open source model. It's MIT licensed. it's when it's going to be distributed widely, it's going to be way cheaper than a lot of these models. So I think that's kind of where we are. Like, it's definitely not as good as Fable. It's not quite as good as 5.5. It's probably, if I had the comparisons, like, I think, yeah, probably be like as good as maybe Sonnet, that kind of level. But that's amazing. Like, we have this kind of progress and jumps from 5.1 to 5.2. By the time 5.3, 5.5 come out, like, who knows? They'll be probably kind of as good as GPT 5.5 right now, which is very exciting to see. But as always, it's good to see for yourself, for your tasks, how these models perform. So definitely recommend you go on the Arena and use the Agent Arena and see how well these models do for you.